afternoon, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Matt, and I've got the great honour today of being Ben's best man. And it's an honour that has made me probably the second happiest man in the room today. First being the landlord, of course. Making an absolute killing on all sorts of jokes, to be honest. I hope you've all enjoyed the day so far, and I'm sure you'll all agree that Jen and the bridesmaids all look absolutely stunning. And I'm sure they're all honoured to play such an important part, so give them a round of applause. Another beautiful aspect was the church. Not only a fantastic venue, but it also holds a certain sentimentality for lots of the people that are here today. For those of you who aren't aware, myself, Ben, and many of the people in the room spent a large portion of our lives growing up and finding our way into the world from this little village. So to be back here for such an occasion, it seems very fitting, basically, and I'm really happy that you chose this place to have this wedding. I'd like to thank the families of Ben and Jen as well for helping to make today so special. I'd never met Jen's parents before today, but I knew I'd like them. They must be comedians, because who else would name their daughter Jenny when their surname's Taylor? And it's no wonder Jen was so happy to take the surname Robertshaw. So moving swiftly along. So, you're not getting away from that. So, ladies and gentlemen, Ben Robertshaw. Can I have a round of applause for him? Ben Robertshaw, aka 8 Ball. Just look and you'll see why. Ben was born on the 3rd of September 1982, and try as I might, I couldn't find anything interesting that happened on that day. It's as if the world stood still and awaited the arrival of something great. Turns out that something great was Fern Cotton, who was There wasn't much to go on with Ben's birthday, so I tried to think of a few words to sum Ben up, but he's a pretty complex guy, admittedly, and thinking of words to sum him up is pretty tricky. So I did the obvious thing and asked a select group of his friends to say the first word that came to their head when they thought of Ben. Most of them had trouble describing Ben in one word, and for a while nobody replied, probably mulling it over and having a bit of a think about it. But when the replies got back to me, they went along the lines of clumsy, dopey, fussy, very fussy, round head, self-explanatory, verbal diarrhea, which I'm sure many of you found out, nincompoop, competitive, which is a big one, and chopstick. Now that made me think that, firstly, young people don't really swear much nowadays, despite what you might think, and secondly, that it was all a little bit negative. So I said back to them, well, hang on a minute, let's not be so rough here. What about anything positive to say about the lad? I'll come back to that one. There is one person who finds all those characteristics endearing, of course, and that is Jen. I know you were looking for a good, strong, intelligent man, Jen, so Ben, you were lucky to snap her up before she found you. When they first got together and started socialising as a couple, I remember thinking how quiet Ben was, which is unusual for him, to say the least. But when I looked at him, I realised it was because he was grinning so hard he couldn't open his mouth, making his head more of a rugby ball shape for a period of time. And so the romance blossomed, and pretty soon they hit the snogging phase. I'm sure many of you remember that phase pretty well. This was okay for them in private, you know. But they didn't really stop snogging in public either. No. Going out to a club was always interesting, often more interesting than the club itself, to be honest. They used to snog each other's faces off in the corner of the room, and we'd take bets on which one would pass out first. Whether they'd get thrown out for indecent behaviour, or whether Jen was only snogging his face off to shut him up. Because he can talk. Oh yes, he can talk. And he gets worse when he's drunk, ladies and gentlemen, so my advice would be to avoid him later on. I really do. The only thing Ben likes to do more than talk is cook. I've never known anyone spend so much time over their food. The only time he didn't cook was conveniently when I was living with him. But nowadays he's quite experimental in the kitchen. In fact, if he's as experimental in the bedroom as he is in the kitchen, then I'm sure they'll be very happy. However, if he's as successful in the bedroom as he is in the kitchen, then it's never going to last. Never said he could cook well. Although Ben's creative in the kitchen, he lacks one thing, and that is timing. And this is apparent when he dances. I'm sure you'll see. I remember the first time we hit a nightclub and we headed straight to the dance floor, as you do. After a short period of awkwardness, Ben turned to me and said, "What do I do?" He'd never been to a nightclub after all, and it was all new to him. So I said, "Well, you just move around to the rhythm." To which Ben started jigging around like a washing machine on a fast lap. More like a drunk Thunderbird. Yeah, not exactly Patrick Swayze that night, anyway. It was nearly the funniest thing I've ever seen him do. But I think the funniest thing he's done recently was, and this further emphasises his lack of timing, was a few months ago when he set his clock for British summertime. Unlike the rest of the country, he put his clock back. Got up to play golf the next morning with the boys at 9. Got there at 11, pleased as punch with himself, completely unaware that everybody else had gone home. You couldn't make it up, you really couldn't. Anyway, jokes and general abuse aside, I remember a discussion we had during a prolonged period of abstinence for Ben, which I won't go into, about whether we'd find the right women, and I reassured him that there was someone or something out there for him. Maybe a hobby or something. And then it appears when you least expect it. And for once, mate, I was right, wasn't I? Shakespeare once said, I am quoting Shakespeare now, I apologise, "How bitter a thing to look into happiness through another man's eyes. But that doesn't apply when you look at happiness through the eyes of your best friend." So Shakespeare was wrong there. Ben, I'm proud of what you've achieved and that you've managed to find your place in the world with someone who you love. And very jealous at the same time that you've managed to make this commitment today. I really am. I'm sure there are people who can't be here today who would be very proud of you as well. And before I raise a toast, I found the positive word that Ben's friends had to say about him. Hilarious. So please raise your glasses one last time to Jen and Ben.